Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and we've gone through each and every Halo game here on this channel. Halo Reach, Combat Evolved, Halo 2, Halo 3, 4, 3 ODST, but one has yet to be talked about, and we're doing that here today, Halo 5 Guardians by 343. This is the Halo game that's often regarded as the one best left forgotten. The place where the story got really screwed up, where 343 expertly dropped the ball, and so I picked it back up in 2021, the year of our Lord and Savior, Halo Infinite, played through the whole story and a ton of multiplayer, and I wanted to sit down today to rediscuss all of that and pose the question, was it really that bad? We're going to return to all of that in today's video. Spoilers ahead, of course. It's been about 6 years. You've had plenty of time to play about this 5-hour story mode. So now, let's sit down and discuss Halo 5 Guardians. Just like every 343 campaign, Halo 5 Guardians starts off with, I think, a bang. After the same dry, familiar environments of Halo 4, you hop into Halo 5 and are greeted with this snow-covered, bombastic battlefield. You're playing as Locke alongside his squad, and to me that evoked the feeling of Halo 2. It evoked the feeling of Metal Gear Solid 2, this brand new character that you're playing as in this universe that you know and love. It feels bold, it's refreshing, it's new, and you wonder, what exactly are they doing here? Okay, I'm going to trust you and see what you've got in mind. Unfortunately, in the case of Halo 5, I don't think it played out as well as some of the other examples I have listed, but it still felt like a really strong start, because as you're searching for Halsey, who's an important character here in the Halo universe, you learn that Chief is out on his own mission with Blue Team. One of the biggest problems with Halo 5 Guardians is 343 really expected you to read the books. Now, I'm no Halo book expert, I know some of the audience is, but there's cool moments in this game, like Chief interacting with Blue Team. These are the Spartans that Chief grew up with. So there's something there that's cool, but for many players, myself included for a long period of time, it just feels like they're slapping Chief in a squad-based shooter, which felt a little odd. Again, though, I felt the tone was set just right. As you start crawling through dark tunnels, you're being stalked by a hunter, there's a level of fear and dread, although that's not something I'd say Halo's really well known for outside of certain moments at the Flood alongside the original trilogy. So again, I really like the tone and some of the initial setup that Halo 5 Guardians provided. Not only that, but this sort of started to feel like, I would say, Star Wars Republic Commando by 343. This squad-based shooter sending out commands, you go there, I'm gonna go here, tactically peeling apart the battlefield. There's a good feeling playing this game. Not for everyone though, as the gameplay mechanics here were really taken from Reach, evolved in Halo 4, and then taken even further with Halo 5, featuring abilities, constant sprinting, mantling, aiming down sights. It felt very Call of Duty for its time, whereas Infinite, we can tell by playing the multiplayer, has taken a much more, we would say, Halo-friendly approach. 5 Guardians didn't really want to do that because I don't think the brand had the strength it quite does nowadays, funny enough. There's other cool tidbits I liked in the beginning of this story. For example, Buck, one of the main characters in Halo 3 ODST, being a major part of Locke's squad. I like that as someone who really likes 3 ODST. It was nice to see some continuity there and see how his character evolved, and now he's a part of Locke's squad. As a Spartan, to me, that was actually really cool. But then there was other stuff like the Halo 4 Spartan Ops missions being completely abandoned with its storyline, because in the first cutscene in Halo 5 Guardians, once you find Halsey, that storyline, kaput. See you later. And it just ends like that, which I think 343 saw as early payoff, but for a lot of us, it felt underdeveloped, which is sort of the name of the game here for Halo 5 Guardians. Because what happens is, I think Halo 5 Guardians is genuinely full of kind of interesting ideas that never get developed. And this is a product of what we have learned about 343, a lot of rewrites. But when you start to see Master Chief tripping out, thinking he's seeing Cortana when he's really not, and that connection he clearly has to Cortana, I think was established here. It was set up well in Halo 4. It was the main part of Halo 4 that I think stuck out really well. But in Halo 5, you can really feel how Chief feels about Cortana more than ever. It goes beyond the battlefield for these two. And I think it's solidified here, but it's never developed further than that. There's never that love and care put into it other than Chief Cortana history, he's sad now. And as we all know, in Halo 4, we have rampancy with the AI, and then we start to see in Halo 5 how Cortana has really gone off the rails now, and she's effectively the main baddie. Another really cool premise, the idea of this character that you know and love from the original trilogy developing into now your villain. Very fantasy-like, but still something that I think is an interesting hook that can get a lot of players, especially those familiar with the series, intrigued. So she has access to the Forerunner domain. Since she has so much control, she's viewed as a threat. Now, meanwhile, Master Chief is, of course, very much into Cortana and trying to figure out what he can do to help her, so he ends up denying orders when he finds out where Cortana is, and then when he's being sent to Infinity, he just denies all of that and says, I'm out, I'm going to find Cortana. And when he's abandoning those orders is when we see Locke start chasing him down. So it's this whole marketing campaign throughout Halo 5 before its launch on hunt down the Chief. And again, pretty cool premise, but it never feels well executed because there isn't that development of tension between these two squads. And when they meet up finally and there's a hand-to-hand battle between Chief and Locke, for those of you out there who pay even remotely attention to Halo, it's this baffling idea of, number one, Chief is a way higher rank than Locke, yet he's competing in a fight like Chief would break Locke's neck in a heartbeat. And not only that, they're the same size. Like, there are these small lore-based violations in this game that stand out like a sore thumb, even all the way to the ending when we see Chief and Arbiter meet up and they just say nothing to each other. It's moments like that where I think 343 missed those key development pit stops that would have made the story worth caring about. Maybe that battle between Chief and Locke would have been better if they respected the lore a little bit and they had something in between there, some more interactions other than them chasing each other. And then finally, when they meet up again, this time it's in the name of Locke working with Chief. And now Chief, who was originally chasing out Cortana to help her, suddenly off screen has realized Cortana is the villain. So then when Locke catches up with Chief, he's like, I know. She's back. We need to stop her. It's like he got it all of a sudden, but it happens off screen. There's just too much off-screen action in this game. And again, it really relies heavily on the books for you to fill in some gaps there. But that's enough negative. I think the coolest part of this game's story actually has to do with the Arbiter. You find out the Arbiter's leading his own charge against the Covenant, so it's this Covenant on Covenant war, a rebellion, if you will. And you actually go to Sanghelios, the homeworld of the elites. There's so much environmental diversity in this campaign. I really enjoyed romping through it just from a gameplay perspective, to tell you the truth. Whether, again, it's that snowy battlefield or some of the Forerunner-based locations to Sanghelios, I liked it. Especially this part here, seeing Locke team up with Arbiter. I thought it was a nice inclusion there. Did it just feel like it was there for the sake of being there? Yeah, there wasn't a huge driving reason in my mind for these two to unite, but I still enjoyed the gameplay moment there, and it can show some of the strengths of a more linear-based Halo game. Because when you look at the art style and the color in Halo 4, and then you look at Halo 5, it's just night and day. It's much more saturated, it's much more pleasing on the eyes. You get this Camino-like world. I mean, there's so many different places to explore and battle in that I think one of the biggest perks of going through Halo 5 again was just being treated to all the sights and sounds of a Halo game that you'd come to know and love. So while Locke and Arbiter are trying to search for the Constructor to use the Guardians to find Chief and Cortana, you find out that the Guardians are being used to keep worlds in line, and Cortana plans to do the exact same thing. She effectively wants to remove pain and suffering. This is a great villain motivation because it's like, yeah, they're kind of good, aren't they? So she wants to make people happy. And throughout this storyline, she's actually not really attacking Chief. She's not trying to hurt him at all. And I thought this was a nice subtle detail there. I actually like that a little bit because she's always taking care of him. She hides him away and Locke ends up freeing him. And while I don't think Locke should have been the hero of this story, I did like that Cortana's effectively protecting Chief this whole time, trying to give him a better world to live in, even though she's clearly corrupted. And so the idea of the Guardians I thought was kind of cool, like these world keepers, if you will. But then, guarding Cortana every step of the way is Warden Eternal. this was another real sore spot for Halo 5 because, man, they just loved this boss fight. Did they love Warden Eternal or what? And then by the end of the game, you get to fight not one, but 3 versions of Warden Eternal. And throughout the whole game, you fight him like 5 times, 4 times, whatever it is. You fight him a lot of times in key moments of the game. Again, you can tell there were some rewrites there because you should not have fought Warden Eternal nearly this much. And even by the end, when you think you finally beat him, Cortana's the one who Thanos snaps him out of existence. It's like, okay. Those fights were great, I guess. And the reason I like that the Prometheans were here in Halo 5 is I have the hot take that I like their guns. I think they're really fun to use. The animation there is so sweet, so smooth. So I enjoy watching them come together when I pick them up. They improved stuff like the suppressor, which shoots way better now compared to Halo 4. I thought the bolt shot was good. The light rifle still feels great. So I overall like the inclusion of the Prometheans all the way to the disintegration animation that happens when you hit a sweet spot, a critical hit on them, and you see them completely fade away, again, like a Thanos snap. To me, that type of stuff was satisfying. But it also comes with the Achilles heel that would, I think, hurt the multiplayer a little bit, is the built-in thrusters. I'm not the biggest hater of Halo having sprint, but built-in thrusters is where I draw the line. Having it as a pickup, for example, in Halo Infinite was nice, but in Halo 5, making it where it's just built into your kit, it was too frantic, too Call of Duty for me. And seeing it in the campaign is one thing, but that was another part of this whole kit that combined for what I think was a up and down experience in Halo 5 Guardians. So all in all, I cleaned up the Halo 5 campaign and I thought to myself, wow, a lot of setup here that I hope they can just follow up on with the next game that they make. And that was in development hell for a while, so a lot of the answers there had remained to be seen. And now we move into the multiplayer, the part of the package that a lot of people really celebrate for Halo 5 Guardians. And I wanted to dive into this one, especially now it's really interesting with Halo Infinite multiplayer being a pretty popular thing. Is Halo 5 Guardians multiplayer something ever worth diving into? The most unique offering as a part of its package is Warzone, which is PvPvE with 24 players. So you'll enter these big maps with all different objectives, and some of the ways that you'll rack up requisition points are by taking on bosses that are a part of the multiplayer matches. In fact, I'll go as far as to say I would love to see this mode, albeit with some fine-tuning I'll talk about in a second, come on over into Halo Infinite. I think it's a really unique idea that's a lot of fun. However, why do I say it needs some tweaking before we dive really into the nitty-gritty of this mode? It's because of requisition packs. So as you gain these requisition points by doing things on the map, you'll be able to use items that are stashed away. Unique weapons, legendary vehicles, what have you. The way you unlock them is by spending requisition points on packs, and you'll have your own little deck of cards of all things you get from loot boxes. The worst part is these are gameplay enhancements and gameplay changing. Now, can you just play the game and earn them and unlock them? Absolutely, and they give you requisition points at a pretty decent pace. But you can also buy them. And this is why I said prior to 343 dropping Halo Infinite's multiplayer, be careful because we're talking about 343 who sold us requisition packs for Halo 5 Guardians. This was a bigger problem because another thing with the marketing of Halo 5 was this was the big mode they were pushing. This was their big team battle. They wanted you to care about this one big time. And it was their center for monetization, if anything. And don't get it twisted. When I was up in the sky in my legendary Wasp versus my level 4 Wasp, it was night and day. When I was in the legendary Wasp, I was lasering people. It was easy. It had more health. But when I was in my normal one, I think I got a kill or two and out of the sky I went. It's a huge difference maker in this game, and it sucks because the core mode there is really fun and really chaotic. That balance of getting points from bosses and timing out unit-wide attacks over on certain enemies and ignoring objectives is a really cool meeting of the Halo campaigns and the Halo multiplayer. Again, I really hope that they consider bringing this into Halo Infinite. You can spend boosts in this mode and in all modes to boost your requisition amount that you get, your XP that you get, and this helps move you along a lot quicker where, again, the game never really pushes you to spend money, but it's the idea that you can spend money, you can get gameplay enhancements, people can wail on this game, and that should just never be an option, especially in a Halo game where you would have paid at the time $60 to get it. Nowadays you can download it on Game Pass, but it's still a paid for game. It's not like Halo Infinite where the multiplayer is free. So I digress. I thought that the handling of the monetization here was pretty unacceptable, especially when you get into the customization. You start to see how simplified it is. It's not very good at all. So when you look at really what you're paying for and what you're earning, it's never quite enough. But fortunately, there's a lot of great multiplayer mode offerings within Halo 5 Guardians, which is why it ended up getting a lot of accolades from critics and fans alike for being one of the better Halo multiplayer modes, and I would agree. I mean, there's a large suite of modes. You've got Ranked, which provides SWAT, 2v2, Slayer, to social modes like Big Team Battle and Infection, and you can hop around in all these. Does it take a while to find a match, especially now? Yes, definitely. It's an older game, and when you look at Halo Infinite really popping off, not many more people are going to be playing Halo 5. But there's still something there, and it's a lot of fun. And that's not even getting into some of the Forge offerings there of how much you can do to build your own modes and maps, but also the player-made ones. Like, people have made Nuketown and other crazy stuff that at one point when the player base was really booming, you could actually hop in and matchmake through the Forge mode, which is something, again, I do hope to see Halo Infinite accomplish in its lifespan. But the multiplayer offering was never really the weak spot of Halo 5 Guardians. In fact, it was its strongest offering for its fans. And that's what's so fascinating about this game, is when you really look at it, it's often marred by critics and fans, despite having a good multiplayer offering, because that's how much a good Halo campaign truly matters. It's one of the few first-person shooters, if not the only first-person shooter out there, with a huge multiplayer following that can get its reputation destroyed by messing up the campaign. It's really, truly fascinating. But anyway, I wanted to take a nice deep dive back into Halo 5 Guardians for today's video and reflect on, is it truly that bad? My ultimate answer is, in a lot of ways, it's very disappointing because it feels like a game that's entirely set up, and by the time you get to the conclusion of the campaign, you're like, you're just getting to the good stuff. And if they had 3-4 more hours, it actually may have shaped up into something pretty good. But it unfortunately drops so many plot threads and leaves you dissatisfied by the end that, yes, in a lot of ways, it is as bad as we remembered. But as for the multiplayer, monetization and Warzone withstanding, I think the ideas, the modes, the offering, the playability, the feel of the shooting should deserve some respect, more than I think it actually gets. So it was fun to return to Halo 5 in a lot of ways, just for this little experiment here. And certainly I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's thoughts on this game in the comments down below. Do you have any fond or, let's be honest, negative memories of Halo 5 Guardians? Let me know down below. Fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. A big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.